Hello all. So this is a translation and analysis of Virgil's Aeneid, lines 370 through 385. Just for kind of recap, we jumped over that portion in book 2 that details them bringing in the Trojan horse and the Trojans celebrating and the Greeks coming out and Aeneas being woken up by Hector to be told that they need to that Aeneas needs to go out and like actually deal with the fact that the city is burning and all that stuff. So let's go. Primo se Daneum magna comitante caterva androgeus offert nobis socia agmena credens inscius. And at first, Androgeus offers himself to us, himself accompanied by a great crowd of Greeks, unaware and believing us to be a friendly troops, Sokia Agna. And furthermore, he addresses us verbis amicis, right, with friendly words. Festinate viri nam quietam sera morator signities, right? Hurry, men, for which delay or lockbar delays you all being slothful so long, causes such delay with you all being slothful. I feel like using the Sarah and Signities, that to me feels like pleonasm, because it's calling slothful people slow, and that just seems redundant. Right. Just double checking that real quick. Right, continuing. Ali rapiunt in kinsaferuntque pergama, right? Others are stilling and carrying off burning Pergama. Pergama here is standing in for Troy, but it is the citadel itself, so it could literally be meaning that. Vos calcis nunc primum a navibus itis? Are you all just now going? Right, vos itis, nunc is the now. And I'm translating primum here is like just now. It's like, are you all first now going from the calcis navibus, from the high ships, from the tall ships? Dixit, he said this, et extemplo, and immediately, nequinim responsa dabantur fidesatis, since the responses were not, since faithful responses or faithful enough responses weren't being given, since it medios de lapsus and hortus, right? He sensed that he had fallen in the middle of the enemy. A little bit of a word picture there with the word that means he had fallen, being in the middle of the enemy. Obstipuit, right? He struck down. Retroque pedem cum voce repressit. Retro means back, and then re, when you put it on pressit, means back. So that's another pleonasm. So, and he pressed back his foot along with his voice. I think here you can make a good argument that repressit is also being used as a zeugma, because it's he pressed back his foot and he checked back his voice. We don't mean that he's actually pressing his voice. We mean that he's stopping himself from talking. So repress it is being used as one verb, but it means two different things in that context, right? To move a foot back and to check his voice. And then we get into the simile. So improvisum through tumentum, it's all big, one big simile. In provisum aspres valuti qui sentibus anguem pressit humilitens, thorepidusque repente refugit, atolentiras et caerula cola tumentem. Right. Valuti is the word that lets you know you're going into a simile. And it's kind of out of its usual spot. You would expect it to be at the start, but here he's not doing that because he's doing something else in this line. In provisum goes with anguem, and then aspris goes with sentibus. Just as one who nitens humi, right, hiking along the ground, striving on the ground, marching on the ground. Nitens means like usually lean on or something like that, but when it's like step harshly when you're using it like this. Has pressed, so just as one who's striving the ground has pressed on an unexpected snake, in the harsh briars, asperus sintibus. So what rhetorical technique is that? We have A, B, B, A. That is chiasmus. And then the veluti qui, that's probably why it's there in the middle, because that's him, just like a guy who has he's like literally stepped in the middle of the snake, right? Stepping on the snake. So it's reinforcing the meaning as well. Repidusque repente refugit. Atalintim iras et caerula cola tumentum. So atalintim and tumentum, those are the snakes. Those are accusatives because they are the snake that are doing those two particular verbs. And frightened, suddenly he flees back, right? Frightened, suddenly he flees back, or what is it? He flees the snake that is atalintim iras, raising its angers and swelling its blue neck. They are plural, but I think that we should probably just translate them singularly. Yeah, so that's what I'm going to go with. And then haud secus litotes, right? Hardly otherwise, meaning just like that. Androgeos, frightened by the sight, abibat was going away. In ruimus, we rush in. Dinsis et cercum fundimor armis, and we are surrounded by packed weapons, by dense arms. And we sternimos, we scatter, we lay waste to the men that are ignaros loci, right, unaware of the place, and held by fear. Captos forbinide. Oh, and I left the word loci out. Or not Loki, possum. We scatter everywhere. We lay waste everywhere. The men that are ignorant of the place, that is the Greeks, because they're in the city of Troy or not been there before, and the Greeks that are captive with fear, right? Ad spirat primo fortuna labori, right? Fortune breathes upon our first work. Fortuna here, goddess, more likely. Yep. So just kind of going back up and seeing what all we can talk about. Combatante caterva, I probably wouldn't do that as alliteration, even though it's got the double C's. I'd really want a third one before I'd feel comfortable with that. Inscius, going down to the next, enjambment, right? So from credens to inscius, enjambment. Signities, again, enjambment from morator to signities. Ferundque Pergama enjambment. This is the first of the three enjambments that I've mentioned that I actually really like and feel like I would use if I was asked to use it, because others are stealing and carrying off Pergama. That's the citadel itself. It's the heart of the city, right? That's putting that to the next line to release that emotional punch, because they could be, stealing and taking people's stuff. They could be abducting people's families, all that stuff. But this is like the city, the citadels, Pergama. Vos Kelsis nunc prima navibus itis, dicit extemplo, nequinem responsa dabantur. Fida Santis, another enjambment from dabantur, Fida Santis. Again, that retro, repressit, pleonasm. To really emphasize how he's going back on things. And again, I think repressit, you can argue that it's zeugma as well, because it's pressing the foot back and checking the voice. Simile. I don't know that IB would accept this as chiasmus, and maybe somebody can correct me on it, but atalintim and tumentum are your two participles, and then the objects of those participles are in the middle. So to me, this feels like A, right, participle, B, object of participle, other objects of participle, other participle. So it feels like an A, B, B, A grammar setup to me. Haud secus litotes, right, not otherwise, hardly otherwise. In ruimus densis et cercum fundimor armis, ignaros quae loci passam et formidine captos sternimus, It's a list of 3 things that they did. The first one's 1 word, the next one's 4 words, and the next one after that's more words than that. So that to me feels like a tricolon Crescens, right? We rush in. We are surrounded by packed weapons, and we scatter everywhere, the troops unaware of the place and held captive by fear. Right. And then fortune breathes on our front foot. All right, so I think that is it for this particular video. And I will stop the recording there. My computer has decided to take a while, so I'm going to talk to you while this goes on in 3, 2, 1, stop.